Nate, appreciate you doing this, man.
Of course, man. I appreciate you, my guy.
Yeah, I'm in your
Looking
city
good
now.
in the suit. I'm casual, man.
I'll be honest, I thought you were going to be suited
I know.
up.
I could tell by the way you looked at me when I walked in. You were like, "Where's the suit at?"
I've only ever seen you wearing a flashy suit.
I know,
but
man.
I like it. Now I dressed up, you dressed down.
Yeah. This is casual, Nate.
I texted Noah this morning. I said, "Should I wear a suit for the New York day?" He's like, "Nate's going to be in a suit."
Yeah. My bad, Noah, man. My bad. You were right.
No, man, but I appreciate you doing this. I'm excited to talk to you because you have, this show is really about, players that made careers off the field and the business behind sports. And so many people that watch this are former athletes that want to have a career in whether it's business, entrepreneurship, media. And, I'm curious to ask you, when you've had multiple different lives now, but when you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, Nate Burleson, which version of yourself do you see? Which one do you resonate with the most?
Wow, that's a really good question.
You like that? You like that?
That's really good.
I've learned from you and your interview skills.
That's fire because no one has ever asked me that. When I look in the mirror now, what I try to see first is a family man.
Yeah.
Because for so long I was juggling that with being an athlete and the sacrifices we make. We're told, you got to put your family on the back burner for a little bit and then focus on football and get back to them after the season. And that created this dynamic that wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
So now I have to constantly tell myself the main focus is being a good husband, a good father, a good brother, a good son, a good friend. And then after that, it's a media personality.
Yeah.
As much as I love being a journalist and a news anchor on CBS Mornings, and then also doing the NFL Today pregame show, my Nickelodeon show, and now hosting Hollywood Squares, I can't describe myself as one type of media person.
Yeah.
I'm just a media personality. And then after that, a serial entrepreneur. I really like going into business. I'm fascinated with, to be honest, making money. I have been a rich guy since I signed my first contract. I didn't grow up rich, didn't have the silver spoon. My mom and dad worked full-time jobs, raised 4 boys. We were eating them out of house and home. We played multiple sports each. We had our moments where, a bill wasn't paid here or there, or we ate top ramen and hot dogs for 4 weeks straight. So I know what a little bit of struggle feels like.
Yeah.
And then when I became an athlete in the NFL, you get that first check and I'm like, holy smokes.
How much was it?
My first check was $457,000.
In one check.
In one check.
You
that
never
was my
seen anything
signing
like
bonus.
that.
I'm like, yo, what is this? This is wild. They're paying me to play this sport?
Yeah.
The same sport I played at recess? And, I don't know if I can say it on the podcast, but, on the Dave Chappelle show, I'm rich, bitch. I probably shouldn't say that.
No, you
but
can
that's
say
what
it.
I was thinking.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm rich.
Yeah.
And having a rich mentality when you've never had money is detrimental because you blow through it. Yeah. You don't know how to save. You don't know how to spend. You don't know how to say no. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, all right, do you want to be rich forever? First world problems, I get it. Thankfully, I'm in that position. Or do I want to turn this blessing into generational wealth? And that's why I love being a serial entrepreneur.
I love it. I love it. So when people say, what do you do? What do you say? Do you say media personality? Is that your answer?
I say I do TV.
Got it. Okay.
I say I do TV. Yeah. It's funny though, because listen, the wide receiver in me never dies. I'm a diva. I'm not the diva. Like I played with Randy Moss.
Yeah.
Elite. Like when I look at like elite diva, and I don't mean it in like a personality way, but just like what is supposed to be a prototypical superstar wide receiver, like it's Moss. I was his Robin. Yeah. And then Calvin, like those guys were like football gods to me. Yeah. And I was just happy to be their number 2 receivers. But I still had the same type of ego as those guys, probably even more so, which
That's
is
a lot
wild.
of ego in one room.
It's a lot of ego, but like Randy knew how talented he was. Calvin knew how talented they were. They were blessed with that special stick from God. They had the attributes of, scaling up your creative player on 99. Like that's what they were in real life. I was your typical wide receiver that overexceeded some expectations, had a few things that separated me as an athlete. But I was an egomaniac. I felt like when I had the ball in my hand, I can get busy.
Yeah.
So that followed me around for a while. And I remember like being in the league and somebody seeing me on the street and they, are you? And like in my head, I'm like, damn right I am. And I'm like, in my head, I'm doing the whole humble like, oh, what's up? Nice to meet you. But in the back of my head, I'm like, tell me how great I am. Tell me I helped you in your fantasy. Tell me about that 1,000-yard season I had with the Vikings. Tell me about your favorite touchdown. The mind of a cocky athlete. Now, getting back to your question about people asking me what I do, and somebody's doing this, say, oh, I hope and I pray, and I'm thankful if they don't say anything about football. I love it when they say, I love the piece you did during Black History Month. I love the story you did on finance. I love it when you sat down with Bill Russell or Michael J. Fox or Barack Obama. Like, I don't even want to hear about myself as an athlete because there is a sense of pride that I have knowing the work that it takes to make an impact in morning news.
Yeah, let me ask you this, because you just mentioned in your playing career, almost, I call it like reading your own press clippings. I did it a bunch in my playing career. Like it was, and I never had the NFL career that you had, but in my college career, when all the hometown newspapers writing articles about you, and you're getting stopped in the street, and I went to Penn State, so college, like frat row chanting your name, and I used to love it. And as I got older and faced adversity in my career, I started to realize that because I listened to it so much when it was good, I then also would listen when it was bad, right? And when the press wasn't always good. And you've had adversity in your career. Like, I mean, everyone wants to play longer and do more and have. And did you ever struggle with that, where you were like, man, you wanted the recognition so bad because it was, it felt good and it was validating the work you put in, but then also it got challenging when it wasn't always positive.
100%. During my career, I loved it when a radio personality said how good I was doing, or I was front page on the newspaper, or I was the face of the program before the game. I loved it. If you told me how good I was doing, it was like a validation I've never felt before. My mom and dad did a great job raising 4 boys, and they're still alive. I can't thank them enough. They are my biggest fans. But being number 3 of 4 boys, I always fought for attention. So anytime I could get it, especially as a Leo, like put me on the stage and tell me how great I'm doing, and I will be your best friend. But that created this dependency on that information. And when I wasn't playing well, I so desperately wanted to see my name that even if it was negative, I was reading it. And then I realized the negative stuff hurt me more. And like my body, like it absorbed it more. So like when somebody tells me how great I'm doing, it's fleeting. Feels good, don't get me wrong, like fast food. Delicious in the moment, but it's gone. And then I have to constantly
terrible after.
I feel terrible after, but I'm constantly eating it. But like a negative write-up or somebody saying something bad about you, like that is like a heavy coat in the rain, or like a bad cologne that you can't wash off, or a meal that's tearing up your stomach and it's just sitting with you. And social media like really was the moment I realized how sick and twisted I am when it comes to reading my own press clippings. Because as I started to transition from being a player to now being a media personality, I would have 1,000 people saying, hey, I love your outfit today. Hey, that take you had on Drew Brees was amazing. Oh, I love the poem that you wrote. Oh, Nate, you're doing awesome in TV. I'm cycling through all of those. And then I'm hyper-focused on the guy that's like, Nate, you're a bum. Like, what are you talking about? You weren't even good in the NFL. Why would I listen to you now? Like, you were always second fiddle. Like, and I'm just like, and you know what? This one I really realized I was off the deep end. I would try to convince that guy that I wasn't that bad. He was wrong. And I wouldn't even want to argue with him. I was trying to convince him that he was wrong. I would tweet him, hey, what's up, man? What's the beef? What's going on? Sometimes I would even DM the person. Yo, what's up? Do you really feel that way about me? And I realized some people just want to engage, so they might walk it back and be like, man, I was just playing. And other people, they just want to hate just to hate. And that's when I realized, all right, Nate, what makes you happy? Is it how you feel about yourself, or is it how other people feel about you?
I love it. I love it. That's I feel like a lot of people resonate with that, especially big-time athletes.
It's crazy. Like we all deal with it. How did you shake that though? Especially now, you're in a space now where one, let me just compliment you. You're doing a fantastic job. One of the former athletes that have transitioned into a space and also created your own lane. You're well-read, well-prepared. The content that you put out there, it's always spot on. And you don't do it for sensational headlines. You do it the right way. But with all that said, not everybody receives it like that. You know what I mean? You're going to get people that pat you on the back, but it's crazy how many people just wake up with crust stains on their drawers and their tank top in their mama's basement, and they're like, let me just see if I can make his day worse.
No, it's funny. I've had to, and I appreciate you saying that. I've had to shift my mindset. Like, I really struggled with it when I was playing, and then I retired. You know, I retired from football a month before the NFL draft. Thought I was going to be, was a two-time All-American, retired, and I remember just some of the newspaper headlines, like, the seeing like the top 10 busts in college football history. I mean, I was a 5-star recruit, 3-time All-American, never played in the NFL. So like very small list of people that did that, but then didn't make it to that level. So I struggle with it a lot. I think what I had to really, at first it took going through some adversity of just like realizing that my identity is more than just sports and the success I have. That you're more than just the All-American or the 5-star recruit or the football player. The bigger piece for me was whenever I see negative things, and it comes from it's whether it's media, whether it's fans on Twitter, whether it's, this, sometimes some of your own boys are from back home aren't even rooting for you. You know what I mean? Like, fact. Everyone loves success but hates successful people, right? So what I've had to change my mindset to is almost view it from a place of empathy and like almost like I feel bad that someone has to sit there on Twitter and tweet at me. They feel that shitty about themselves. That they're tweeting at Nate Burleson when you're out here making it on TV and they're sitting, or someone's rooting against you. I almost try to flip my mindset that like it isn't even about me. It's about them.
It's about them. They're projecting.
They're projecting. Exactly. They don't really even feel that way.
They don't really hate you.
You know how TV, I call games. Like so like when you're calling a game, it's funny. You get half the people love you calling a game, half the people hate you, right? And half the people are like, "This guy, get Breneman off TV."
Calling the game,
but it's only people. Wild. It's only the team that's losing. The people that hate you, right?
That's true. That's true.
But calling a game, because you've been calling games at Nickelodeon and stuff.
It's tough. It's tough. I mean, listen, you do a great job, but like,
it's hard.
It's a dance, man. Like, and you also like, you have to like let your own like ego die and realize I'm just a supporting actor. The game and the players, like that's the superstar. And the hardest thing for me when I first started calling games was, something my mentor said. He said, it's okay to let the game breathe. Like, I know they hired you to talk, but you don't have to always fill the space. I'm like, all right, cool.
Was there a first live television moment that was like, oh, welcome to TV? You got producers in your ear, you got a lot of things going on, and you're on live TV, national television. Anything that was like, oh boy. Like,
there's a couple of them. I remember I was working for the NFL Network doing Total Access, and I did my first like 4-box. And the producer was like, all right, I'm gonna put you guys in a 4-box with whoever we were having this talk back with. And I just had no idea what that meant. And I'm looking everywhere but the camera. And as I realized that I was screwing up the aesthetic of the shot, my brain started talking to me. You know how it is, like when you first start doing this, your brain's like, hey bro, you're screwing up. You might want to stop talking right now. And then the other part of your brain is like, no, you can't stop talking, man. You got to run through this red light, man. What are you doing? Lock in. And I'm having this internal conflict and I start sweating. And then the segment was just a bust for me. I couldn't even get the words out of my mouth. And that's when I realized like, all right, I need to understand the technical terminology of what is going on. And I have to start putting in work as far as the craft of being on TV. Another moment, still at the same time at the NFL Network, I get done with the show. And shout out to Mark Watts. He was working at the NFL Network at the time, and he's one of my mentors still. You get off and like, the producer's like, hey, good show, good show. And it's always good show. And that's the last thing you want to tell a wide receiver, because you tell us we're doing a good job, we're going to take it, whether we screwed up or not. And I'm like bopping around, feeling myself, and then he calls me in, and Mark is like, hey, come to my office. I go to his office. He's like, hey, let's watch the show. So we sit back, and he's watching the show. And it get to the segment where they get to me and they ask me a question, and I get all swaggy and like a long-winded like answer with the story. And then finally I get to like the question and then I answer the question, the point. And then I like lean back in my chair like I said something really cool. And he's like, what do you think about that? I'm like, oh, it's cool. Like I did my thing. And he's like, no, you didn't say anything. For like the first 2 minutes, you didn't say anything. He was like, say something and stop taking the long route. Make a point, be concise, back it up with stats or numbers or nuggets or a story. But just do it the right way because you're wasting time. If I'm watching you, I'm bored. Doesn't matter how you think you look. It matters how you sound to the viewer. And I was just like, damn. All right, let me find my voice. All of these like life moments happen at the NFL Network. And the last one, I'll add one more. I got there when it was Kurt Warner, Deion Sanders was still there, Michael Irvin, Marshall Faulk.
Legendary.
Man, bro. All Hall of Fame, Super Bowl winning guys. And here I am, this, wide receiver trying to make an impact. And I'm looking at them, and just like anything else, you try to mimic who's doing it at a high level. And I was a copycat. I remember I was like, all right, I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna act like Irv. So I'm coming with the grambling voice and I'm like, listen, man, here's the thing. Your Calvin Johnson was a beast. And then after the show, I'm like, nah, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. And then I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna just come in with the slick talk and be a little bit more prime time with it. So I'm gonna talk about the different things that I did playing with Matt Hasselbeck in Seattle. Now that was a good thing. That wasn't me either. I'm not Deion Sanders. I'm like, you know what, let me just pull a little Marshall Faulk. I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna, pontificate, and I'm gonna use my words and be astute as I approach the game in a way that has this highbrow articulation because I can see it from it. That's not me either. And I remember after a few weeks of trying to copycat all of these guys, there's no better version of myself that I can be than Nate Burleson. Like, they don't need another Marshall Faulk or Deion Sanders or Michael Irvin. They need the best version of Nate. And at that point, there's this self-reflection. Who am I? All right, 11-year wide receiver. Put up 40-plus touchdowns, decent, respected by my peers. I'm not going down as a legend, never won a Super Bowl. I'm not gonna be a Hall of Famer. I was born in the 80s, raised in the 90s, influenced by the 2000s. I love movies, music, pop culture. I write poetry. I'm self-deprecating, but I also think I'm fly. I can take the stage and lead when I need to, but I'm okay with being a team player. That's who you are. Be that guy on TV. And once I started being that dude, I became the most relatable version of myself. And that's when people started to identify, because instead of trying to be everything that I'm not, the average dude at home sitting on the couch or the average woman watching was like, oh, I identify with that character trait of Nate. Like, I'm also self-deprecating. Or, I also feel like when it's my time to shine, I can shine. I also am a goofball and love animation and cartoons. I also love poetry. So that's when I realized, all right, I found my lane, now drive the hell out of it.
I resonate a lot with that. Not saying too many words when you're on TV. My broadcasting coach, shout out Joe Montgomery, she's the best. She taught me this saying, and I actually write it on when I call a game or do studio, I write it on the top of my notes.
I
call it word economy. And the saying is, and I write it at the top to remind myself, don't say in 10 words what you can say in 3. And it's so true on TV, right? Because a lot of times you say a lot without saying anything.
No doubt.
And what I've learned is that a lot of times the less words you say, the more impactful you can actually be. I would ramble on about a replay or something, and Jill, my broadcast coach, would say, you realize that you said so much, you didn't give the viewer any time to actually digest what you said. But it was good info, but you just rambled on about all this different stuff. So I resonate with that a lot.
So
and I think
true.
People struggle with that because you think you got to fill the dead air all the time.
You think you have to, and that's what we do, right? And listen, we've been athletes for so long that more things change, the more they remain the same. Like, we're all pretty much similar in the sense, after a game, they come to us. If we won, we're a little bit more chatty. We're a little bit more willing to open up some of the intricacies of the game, but we're hitting you with all the good cliches. And then when we lose, a little bit more closed off, and we're gonna hit you at the end of the day. You gotta take it one game at a time. You gotta do what we gotta do, and we gotta play well, go to practice, and and we're doing all these, like, it's like we're creatures of habit, and then when we become professionals, we don't realize how many bad habits we have tucked in our pocket that come up every so often. So we have to retrain ourselves.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: if there's one moment in your life you could point to that you think has allowed you to be where you are today, what would it be?
I'll give you two. I remember a couple of player personnel guys that work for the Lions and the Seahawks. Mo Kelly with the Seahawks, shout out to Mo Kelly. And then Galen Duncan with the Lions. They both said to me, when you're done with football, you'll be able to make more money outside of the game than you did in it. And I couldn't even fathom what they were saying. I'm like, what, bro? I'm making millions of dollars running routes. Like, no, life isn't ever going to get much easier than this. And what they were saying was, if you took like being in media seriously, like there is some space and opportunity there. And at the time, I was working in media. I was doing stuff for each team that I was on, whether it was their own specific show, like the Lions pregame show, or doing radio hits for the Seahawks. But I think they all saw this like budding talent, and they're like, bro, if you just cultivate this, like there's some real money out there, especially by the time you retire. So that was like the seed that got planted. And then I went to the broadcast boot camp, and I was there, and at this time, I was maybe year 9 or 10, really at the tail end of my career. I could see like the light at the end of the tunnel. It was bright. I understood my career was almost over. And at that time, they would like crown, like, not really crown, but they would say who was a standout. And because I'd essentially been doing media every year since I got in the league, I was comfortable in front of the camera. You know, I can read the teleprompter, I can even script a little bit. So I stood out amongst, you know, the other applicants that were there. But when we did the live game, it wasn't a live game, but it was like a demo of calling a game, and I was doing the color commentating. It was an exercise we all did, and we were prepared for it. They're like, hey, tomorrow we're gonna call this game. Here's a roster if you wanna look at it. I had no idea how difficult it was. So I'm in my room the night before, and I kind of peek at the roster. I'm like, it's a game from this previous season. How hard can it be? And it was difficult, and I struggled. That's when I realized.
Especially if you don't know the roster.
Especially if you don't know the roster. And that's when I realized how difficult it was to do color commentating. And I was being perfectly set up by in-game guy. Like they brought all the big dogs in. And just like they would during any regular game, he was just alley-ooping me every single play. All right, 1st and 10, Ben Roethlisberger drops back, and it's caught. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I get it. Is caught. It's caught, and see that what the play when he ran the slant, and so back to you. I did that for about 30 minutes, and at the end of the broadcast boot camp, they were all saying, "Good job, good job." I even met James Brown, and he's like, "Yo, you got an opportunity when you retire, man. Hey, keep my number, stay in touch. If you need anything, holla at me." But I kept thinking about botching that exercise. And I realized at that point, all of the charm and charisma and faking your way through something until you figure it out isn't going to work in real TV. You will get exposed quickly. And if that was me calling a real game, I probably wouldn't be called back. So it was like this like duplicity of like, good job, Nate. Like, you're really good on camera. And on the other side was like, hey, let me talk to you. Like, you're not as good as you think you are. And if you go into TV after you retire, start over. You're a rookie, bruh. Be a rookie, study like a rookie, learn from the best, and work your ass off. Those are the defining moments that help me get to where I am.
And it comes down to the preparation too.
That's it, the preparation.
What's your preparation look like now when you do, you know, all your stuff on CBS as a news anchor? I mean, how are you preparing to be on live TV? Real quick, guys, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor on this podcast, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to fire on sports. I've tried all the different apps, sports books, daily fantasy. Prize Picks is the way. On Prize Picks, you're picking players instead of teams. So if you know sports like I do, you can make a bunch of money, especially with the free $50 bonus with code NEXTUP or the link in my description. All you gotta do is deposit $5, you get a free $50 in your account that you can use, go 10x, 100x, turn it into whatever you want. Code NEXTUP $50 bonus, link in description. Let's go.
It's the most work that I've ever done in my life. Shout out to my assistant, Nairi Williams. He works for me at CBS Mornings. So a typical Friday with him would be, all right, Nate, he's in my office here. I got some flags for you. He goes over my entire schedule for the next week. Here's a couple of the main guests that we'll have on. And then let's just take like a heavy work week. He'll pull out 5 books. And we're not talking about some pamphlets. We're talking about some scripture, biblically sized books. And he'll be like this. All right, so we got 5 authors coming in next week, and I'll be like, next week? You mean I got the weekend to get through these? He's like, oh, a couple of them are later in the week. And I take those books home, and I'm thumbing through them. It was wild one time. I came home, and I'm just sitting there. And my wife knows, like, my work week ends, I just want to relax. I'm sitting on my patio reading with all these books stacked next to me, and she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, prepping for next week. I got to put the work in. So that's just CBS Mornings. Yeah. I've done more reading for that show than I've ever done in my life. When it comes to the NFL, you have to watch everything. There really are no days off. Yeah. The good thing about working for Good Morning Football is it's live 3 hours, 5 days a week. It was a revolving door of football information. So by the time I showed up on Sundays for the NFL Today, I knew the NFL like the back of my hand. Yeah. I was already prepared. There wasn't a storyline that I couldn't talk about. We can go hardcore X's and O's. I could break down offense, defense, special teams, what coaches have been standouts, what coaches are going to be hired, what coaches are going to be fired. We can even talk about specific fan bases and how they feel about players, because that's what our show was. Yeah. And then Nickelodeon is just me showing up and being the 12-year-old version of myself and doing Slime Time. Yeah. And now that I'm, swimming in the waters of game shows and doing Hollywood Squares with Drew Barrymore, that's a lot of work. We get the scripts for the show. I read all of the questions and how I'm supposed to introduce the contestants. And then for me, I start to formulate my rebuttals and jokes, because I write everything that I say. So the reason I love winning an Emmy for the work that either I am doing or the shows are doing is because this is the most work that I've ever done in my life. I'm not saying football was easy. Yeah. And we worked our ass off. Come on, like the bumps and bruises, the highs and lows, the tears, the blood, like that's not an exaggeration. When guys say that stuff, like we did it, we lived it. The broken bones, ligaments, all that stuff we're gonna live with. The arthritis that we're gonna deal with, the inevitability that we're gonna deal with some real at an earlier age than most guys. Some of the dudes that we played with are gonna die before the average guy his age. All of that is real. So I'm never going to be dismissive about the work it took for me to be a football player. But the work it takes to juggle the jobs that I have, it's tough. So it's very rewarding when I'm recognized for it.
Yeah, and the thing about live TV, for those that haven't done it, is if you're not prepared, you will be exposed.
And there's no playing it off.
Exactly. You can't. It's live TV.
It's live TV.
It's like one of the hardest things to do. I've always found that if I'm ever anxious before I go on TV or before I do a broadcast or before I do a podcast, the only reason is if I'm not prepared.
Because you're not prepared.
If I'm prepared, I feel great.
You're good.
I'm the man. I know, like, I'm fine.
You know
what I'm saying though? Like, if you ever get anxious, you're like, it's because I'm not prepared for
that's
this.
A fact. That's a fact. Or if you get anxiety in a moment, there's like a question that popped up that you weren't prepared for, or the producer sprung something on you. But I'm the same way, and that's why like now I'm over prepared. Like I'd rather walk away with too much information, stuff that's left on the cutting room floor that I'll never use, than not have enough. And shout out to Phil Simms and Boomer Esiason, a couple of guys that I work with over at the NFL Today. Boomer was one of the first guys on that set. I sat next to him every single show. He was like, yo, you're bigger than this show. And not in the sense that he was like knocking the NFL Today. He's just saying, do this and more. He was like, just keep your eyes open for opportunities, man. You are a star. I've always appreciated Boom for that, because people thought it was competitive, and then with Boom not being there anymore, like, nah, Boom was like one of my biggest fans, as I am for him. And then Phil Simms, I have to give him a shout out, because Phil is a football junkie. I loved working with him, because if I showed up ill-prepared, I would feel like I was letting him down. I'm looking over at him, and he got notes
Yeah.
and notes.
He's like, what do you got over there?
And he knows he's not going to use maybe 75% of it.
Yeah.
But he came to work prepared and ready to talk about everything. So it's also like, I'm a team guy. It's me versus we. So I want to show up for my guys as well, or my ladies, whoever I'm working with. Like, if I don't have, what I need and I'm not prepared for the segment, then I feel like I'm letting the team down.
Yeah. How much, you talked a little bit about your playing career.
Yeah.
And you had a ton of success, so let's not downplay that. But you also mentioned that you're not a Hall of Famer,
right,
and you didn't win a Super Bowl. How much of maybe not achieving the level of success you wanted in your playing career does that drive today the desire for you to become one of the greatest broadcasters of all time?
A good percentage.
Yeah.
A good percentage. And I would love to say it was easy for me to figure out and I just did this simple equation, not a Hall of Famer, no Super Bowls, here's what I want to be in media. It wasn't like that. It was more, I don't have a gold jacket.
Yeah.
I didn't win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
There's a void inside of me. I still feel like I can play.
Yeah.
My body won't let me. Who am I? Figure it out.
Yeah.
And then I started to realize who I wanted to become.
Yeah.
Because the void was real. I've been playing football since I was 8.
Yeah. That was it.
I never won a major championship. Not Pop Warner, not high school. We didn't go to a bowl game in college. I didn't get to a Super Bowl in the league. And I was sandwiched in between 2 Seattle Seahawks teams that went. One of them won it. So it's like, I was a little bit bitter.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, what's up? I'm a blessed man, don't get me wrong. Raised in a Christian home, I always have faith. But we talk about these football gods, and I don't mean it literally, but I'm like, what's up, football gods? What's up, baby?
Yeah.
I'm the guy that you give the championship to.
Give me a ring.
I gave you everything. I've sacrificed bones and ligaments. Like, I got metal in my knee, and I have repaired injuries. Like, I'm the one. Like, I see all these other guys that don't deserve a Super Bowl. I'm the one that deserves it. I'll trade in some of the money. I'll trade in a year or two. I want the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And when I left the game, I didn't realize how much of a void it was until I was fully retired, and I'm sitting back at the house, drinking my ass off, watching old highlights of myself, like they was old sex tapes with a girlfriend. I'm just like, man, look at them moves, damn, they were good together, you know what I'm saying? And then I reach out to a couple of my coaches that are on different staffs. I'm like, hey, I heard y'all got some injuries.
Yeah.
And I remember that was like my "you up" text to an ex. And I remember the response I got from one of my, shout out to Kyle Valero. He was receivers coach with the Lions and he was at the Cowboys at the time and they had some injuries. And he was like, I said, hey, you guys got some injuries, man. I'm still here. It's 6 months out of me not playing.
Yeah.
Haven't officially retired yet. I had just been cut by the Cleveland Browns because I had a torn hamstring and I fractured my arm early in the offseason, so I see why they didn't keep me, and I was old. But you start playing games with yourself. Sitting at home, all of a sudden I'm feeling better.
Yeah.
My injuries are healed up.
Yeah.
And his response was, nah, man, we good. But tell the family I said what's up. And I know he didn't mean it that way,
Yeah.
but how I read it was stop texting me.
Yeah.
I told you I found somebody else, and I'm happy. Because I've always looked at the game as this woman. This love affair that I had with this woman that I fell in love with at a very early age. And it goes back to this poem I wrote. It's titled Her, and the acronym is His Everlasting Romance. And it reads as if I'm talking about a relationship with this woman I'm in love with, but then at the end of it, you realize I'm talking about football.
Yeah.
And that was the moment where I realized, damn, she's done with me. It's crazy. I knew it was going to happen, but not only is she done with me, she moved on.
Yeah. There's someone else.
With someone else. And I know he's better looking, making her happy. They're having good sex, traveling the world. Life is good for them.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew, damn, this void is there. And what am I going to fill it with? Am I going to fill it with more drinks, partying, kicking it, wasting money? What am I going to do? Of course, my family's there.
Yeah.
I can spend as much time as I want with my wife and my kids and travel with them and support them in their dreams, which I did.
Yeah.
But what's going to feel like that rush of practicing every day, preparing for something and chasing a goal and then hoping to win a trophy.
Yeah.
Back to that validation.
Yeah.
And somebody saying, here's the Lombardi, you are a champ, you're the best at football. One day I woke up and I'm like, all right, I have to create some good habits.
Mm-hmm.
I have to shed some of these things that are holding me back from moving on.
Mm-hmm.
And then it hit me. The Lombardi is a man-made trophy.
Yeah.
Men make other trophies. Men make Emmys. Go win some other trophies. And I did. I'm working on my 5th Emmy. And I didn't know how much I wanted a Lombardi trophy until I won my first Emmy. And it felt so good to be acknowledged for something that had nothing to do with how fast I could run, how many catches I had, or how well I could play football. And that was the realization that this is professionally, this is the new love of my life. And I'm going to give everything I can to being the best version of myself on TV.
How much relief did you feel when you won that first Emmy?
Man, it felt good. I didn't even know how much I needed it and wanted it until I saw it and held it. And then immediately I was like, well, I want more of these.
I want another one.
I want another one, and another one, another one. So I want to win as many Emmys. And now, like I have a few individual Emmys as like in-studio analyst in sports. But like I want every show I'm on to win an Emmy for the show. Like I want our shows to be recognized. So now I don't have that selfish desire to be named really good at something and have an individual Emmy in name of me. I want to win Emmys in every show that I'm on. That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah. You mentioned a little bit being a serial entrepreneur and curious, just your strategy around investing business with the money you're making. You made in football, now also you're making in television. Take me through your kind of strategy there from when it comes to business.
Well, I have a strong financial team. Shout out to everybody I work with. I have one of the guys that anchor me in Seattle, where I'm from, and then I actually have a team here in New York. And we have a 3 red flag rule. And basically, if there's 3 red flags, we're going to pull out of any potential investment. I would like to call myself a venture capitalist. So if there's anything that I see that can be lucrative and create some ladders of revenue for me, I get excited about it. But at the same time, I can't be over my skis. I had one opportunity that turned out to be an absolute failure. And I've talked about it before, but there was this idea that seemed like a revolutionary product that was going to change the bar and restaurant industry. I mean, turn it upside down. And I was like, I got to get in. I don't want to have FOMO. I'm going to get in early.
Restaurants are never a good idea.
Yeah, and I used to have a restaurant. So I'm like, okay, this is a product that worked within the restaurant that was going to change the way you accounted for money at the bar. And let's just say they always say, don't necessarily invest in the product, invest in the person running it. And I didn't do that. And there was multiple red flags, maybe like 5, and I just kept ignoring it because I was excited. It was my first big time investment. We're talking about a couple of $100,000. And the reason I felt comfort is because like there were people with so much more money in me investing in it. I mean, we're talking about real estate moguls. And I'm like, my little couple $100,000 is nothing. They wouldn't be putting their money in it if it isn't worth it. And I remember the company inviting everybody to Vegas. And they already got me hook, line, and sinker, bro. It was like straight out of American Greed, you know what I'm saying? And I watched the show plenty of times. I should have recognized it. So we get down there, they fly me in private. We're hanging out. I see all these big dogs in this room. They're talking about this product and how, it's going to be able to take the bottle of liquor, and when it's poured, it's going to have this ability to measure it. It's going to send the exact amount that the tally should be, and then that information is going to be sent to the register, and then it also sent to the owner, and it's going to be accounted because like 90% of lost money happens at the bar. So I'm like, oh, this is great. This is great. This is it. I'm looking at everybody in this room. I'm like, this is a perfect product. This is like the one that's going to like put a little bit of money in my pocket, and then I'm gonna go all the way in, I'm gonna be like Mark Cuban, dark Cuban,
Private equity guy.
So I was like, all right, cool. And then this is after like 4 red flags, bro. We go to the party that night. Like the guy throws this big party, we're all there in the club. Oh. I'm drinking, all excited. I'm talking to everybody like, oh, this project's gonna be amazing. I'm drunk, taking shots. And then I just so happen to be next to the guy running this whole thing, and the tab comes. And I just peeked down. I'm like, the tab's like $70,000. And I'm like, wait a minute. Whose money is he spending to pay for this tab?
Your investment.
He's spending our money. I'm like, why is all this necessary? So then my mind starts working. And then my team does research, and they're already like, Nate, we told you to pause this a while ago. Yeah. But if you want further confirmation, here's some more information about this dude. Here's some more information about this brand. Here's some more information that we tried to offer you, but you ignored it. And that money, initially, gone in the wind. Yeah. I had to get in line, a long line of people trying to sue to get their money back. Eventually I did, but that was a big time learning lesson. Yeah. I'm like, all right, that enthusiasm we have as athletes, all right, I'm so excited. Yeah. Let's go, let's go, let's go. That does not work when it comes to investing. Yeah. You have to be calm, keep your composure, do your due diligence, create the perfect game plan, and then approach your investment like you would a Super Bowl. Every single investment, I don't care if it's $1,000, $100,000, or $100 million. Like, you have to lock in and focus on every single detail, or else your money is gone.
Yeah, yeah. What's the biggest revenue stream for you outside of TV right now? Is it invested, like venture investments? Is it a different business?
Yeah, listen, I went from not wanting to invest in the market, and I know it's a little volatile right now. There's a lot going on. We talk about it on CBS Mornings, right? We can have a whole podcast on tariffs. But I went from zero in the market to waiting till I understood it and then investing in it, and it's been good for me. Yeah. It has. And then also I invested fully in the retirement plans, 401k. Yeah. When they offered it, as soon as they offered it, I matched it and doubled it. And then life insurance plans. So for me and my team, because I started off conservative, I wanted to create these ladders of income when I turned 40, 50, and 60, because I didn't know how long I was going to play. Yeah. So just in case my career ended in like the average at the time, which was like 2.5, 3.5 years, I wanted to make sure that when I was 40, 50, and 60, that I had money coming in. And that's what I was setting myself up for. You know, in the middle of all that, I opened a restaurant, an Italian restaurant in Seattle that made some good money. I launched a couple of clothing lines that really were just projects at the time. And then some small opportunities here and there. But right now, I have a liquor brand that I'm launching. It's Lion Blood Orange Vodka, based out of Michigan. We're launching in Michigan. Already have over 700 cases sold. This is going to be a very lucrative revenue stream. It's going to be a regional vodka at first, and then it's going to grow larger than that. Did some research because I wanted to launch a liquor brand when I played, but the league wasn't messing with that when athletes were playing. And then during my research when I played, I realized local beers and liquors drive in millions of dollars. Wow. Like, you don't have to compete with Goose and Belvedere. Yeah. You can be local and be regional and bring in $20 or $30 million a year. Yeah. So I missed the boat when I played. We're doing it now. It's going to be awesome. And then I have shoe cleaner brand coming out, some socks coming out, a car kit that basically helps you detail your car from your garage coming out. So I have some products that I think in a few years are going to be big time revenue streams, and we'll possibly be entertaining selling it if it's worth it. And then my wife, she has a brand that she's building. Shout out to my wife, Nate Burleson. It's called The Ladies Playbook. Imagine if Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Yelp had a baby, and it created a platform and an app that is based in the cities of every NFL team, specifically for NFL wives and girlfriends. So it's their own platform. The Seahawks are going into year two using it. You have to pay for a membership, and these women have their own community. So she built this brand and was talking about it a few years ago. I'm like, that is genius. So now she has the ability to, partner with every team, and she's starting with the NFL. We're going to move on to other professional leagues. But then also partner with brands and companies and sponsors through the app. So, that's also a big time brand that she's building. So right now, the plan is to create revenue streams outside of TV. That way I'm not so dependent on being in front of the camera, because listen, it's all good now. But just like the NFL, the one thing it has taught me, or just the sport of football, it's going to end. And it's not going to end on your terms. So be prepared and have an exit strategy.
What are those negotiations like with TV networks? They ever get intense?
That's a good question. Yeah, they get intense. Yeah. Shout out
Pay
to
me my money.
Yeah, facts. You know what I'm saying? Show me the money. Shout out to Mark Lepselter. That's my guy. He's my agent. He represents me.
Mark reps me too.
Yeah, of course. It's home team. Home team. But he is. He works his ass off. He does a good job. I've been approached by every major firm. Some have seen the talent in me and been talking to me for a few years. Others, they have been sniffing around and they see the money, so they want to get on board. I'm just loyal to the soil, so I have these open conversations with Mark. I'm like, CAA called me, WME called me today. I got invited to this place by that agency. So we have that open conversation. One, because we love to have that transparency. Two, a little bit, shout out to Mark, keeps him on his toes, you know what I'm saying? But I'm not going anywhere. But I will say they do get intense. But I've learned though, everybody you work for, especially if you understand how much they are making on the back end, see, that's key. Understand how much your company, the organization, the overall brand is making. And where that money is being distributed. And then you can kind of cross-reference that with how you're doing your engagement, your rating, your Q rating, how people show up for you, how you do on social media. And then once you kind of create this equation, you'll be able to come up with a starting point of where you want to negotiate. And that's just the starting point. And you're never agreeing to where they start. Always stand firm and hold. I remember in the league, and I'm not sure if I shared this out loud before, but when I left the Seattle Seahawks, all right, so I finished my career with like 800 yards. I missed like the last 3 games because I had an ankle injury. They wanted me back, but they were just kind of hesitant. This was the transition between Holmgren and Mora and Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll came in, and I remember meeting him, and he's like, because I was still on the team at this point. He's like, "Oh, what's up, man? Yeah, nice to meet you." He kind of like sizes me up. He's like, "Yeah, you're bigger than I thought." And I'm like, all right, that wasn't like, wasn't like a confident interaction for me. Basically, he's like watching film with me and thinks I'm just a small dude.
Kind of condescending.
Yeah, exactly, a little bit, right? And then I meet the receivers coach, and he's like, "Yeah, man, good to see you, man. Yeah, I've been checking out some film, man. Yeah, man, it's going to be a good year. We got to work on that 50-50 ball." I'm like, the first thing you do is like criticize the 50-50 ball? You're not going to compliment me on all the big plays or touchdowns, the great things I do well. And like those 2 interactions, that gave me the idea that Seattle, at least this coaching staff, they weren't going to do backflips to get me back. So I remember being at Daniel's restaurant. Scott Linehan flew in, who coached me with the Vikings, was now the offensive coordinator for the Lions. And he's like, we want you in Detroit. We got this young receiver, Calvin Johnson. He's a beast. He's the sweetest guy in the world. I think you coming in with your attitude, you guys are gonna mesh well. You'll be able to learn from him. He'll be able to learn a lot from you. I think you'll be able to bring some other elements out of his game. You'll be a great compliment to him. This is all like at midnight because you can't really talk to teams at midnight. And my agent is there. So the whole idea was I'm going to negotiate with the Seattle Seahawks while talking to the office coordinator for the Lions, who's at the table, while my agent is on the phone with both teams. So Scott's like, "What's up, man? Sign with us." Like, come on, forget about Seattle. Like, if they wanted to sign you, they would have signed you. It's midnight. You're already a free agent. And so I'm like, yeah, I know, I feel you, but like, So Seattle comes in, they're like, all right, $9 million for like 3 years. Then Detroit comes in, 10 million. And now the numbers are going up. You know, now, okay, 4 years for 12. And they're going up. And then at one point, the Seattle Seahawks, they stopped picking up the phone.
Yeah.
And we were stuck at a certain point. I want to say it was like 4 for around 14 or something like that with 9 guaranteed. And so my agent's like, hey, come here, let me talk to you. So we go out to the patio of the restaurant. And he's like, look, shout out to Ken Sarnoff. He's like, look, man, Seattle's not picking up the phone. I'm like, what do you mean not picking up the phone? He's like, man, after we hit like 9 million guaranteed, like they're not picking up the phone. So the reality is, like, I don't think they're gonna go any further. And to be honest, they might even pull back their offer because they think you're just too deep in with Detroit. I'm like, well, what's Detroit saying? He's like, they're stuck at the same number now. I'm like, well, is anybody from Seattle talking to the Detroit Lions? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, as far as negotiating, like, do these guys talk to each other? And he's like, nah, I don't think so. What are you getting at? I'm like, well, how about this? How about you call Detroit back and you tell them that Seattle still is on the phone and they just offered another $1 million. He's like, I don't know about that, man. It's kind of, I don't know about that. And I'm like, well, what does it hurt? Let's just use it as negotiation power. So he was like,
it's all about leverage.
It's all about leverage. So he calls Detroit back. He's like, yeah, Seattle's still on. They're still on the phone. They still want Nate. So what do you want to do? Because we're stuck. And Seattle and Detroit, they're like, all right, listen, we're going to add another $1 million to the guarantee. So we're going to guarantee him $10 million. So we kind of bluffed our way to another $1 million in the guarantee. And that stuck with me because now even when I'm negotiating in TV, you know, sometimes you gotta stand on business. You know what I mean? Especially if you know your value.
And you always gotta have someone else that wants you, right?
No doubt.
You gotta have an option.
You gotta have.
It's like
some
in the
leverage.
transfer portal with players. You're always more valuable when you got other people coming after you.
When you have somebody waiting for you on the other side of the portal. And shout out to CBS. Listen, I don't ever want to go anywhere. I don't want to leave Paramount, CBS. Nickelodeon has been great to me. We've also birthed some things that are completely original to those 3 brands and those 3 networks. But at the same time, you know, ESPN was knocking. Disney was knocking. And CBS, they were like, stay home. You don't need to go anywhere. And I'm not.
Yeah, that's awesome. Last 2 things I got for you.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
My dad always said, shoot for the moon, you'll land amongst the stars. And I know that's like one of those old school quotes you can, you know, pull off of a postcard, but I just think it's powerful because oftentimes when we're setting our goals, we look in the mirror and we undershoot because the fear is that we won't hit our goals. So the easier thing to do is make it more reachable. But I say, screw that. Like, go big or go home. And what I realized is the higher I set my goals, even though they may seem unrealistic initially, I always end up hitting them if I approach it the right way. So that's the best advice that I received. And I still kind of stick to that. And then the advice that I give myself is, you know, always be willing to be the best teammate. Always. Like, what you'll realize when you leave sports is that the person that is good at their job and can coexist is the one that everybody wants to work with, especially if you can be a better complement to someone than they can be to themselves. You'll always keep a job. But then on the flip side of that coin is be ready for the stage. Like, you know, some people are like, it's not my thing, I don't want this. No. You can be the superstar. You don't have to be it all the time, but just prepare yourself, like we talked about. Prepare yourself for that inevitable moment when the stage is yours and the lights are the brightest and you're ready to do your solo thing.
Be the guy.
Be the guy or be the woman.
When it's all said and done, man. When years from now, what do you want people to say about Nate Burleson?
That he was a really good dude, unselfish, took care of a lot of people. He was a great family man. He was good on TV. Oh, and by the way, he used to play football. I want it in that order. If people are at my funeral talking about how I helped them win their fantasy one year and how I was good on the football field, or I made them laugh in a segment I did on TV, and that was the extent of my life, I failed myself and I failed the people around me. I'd rather have people stand up and talk about the impact that I made on them and their lives. That's the footprints I want to leave behind, big enough for people to walk in.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, I appreciate all your time. You know, I'm a big fan of yours, man. All your success.
My God.
You've been leading the way for people like me and that are going from playing to media. So
I appreciate it,
man.
You kicking
doing
ass,
this.
bro.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man.
Thank
Thank you. Next up.